Welcome to History Doc.
Welcome to This Explainer. We're going to dive straight in today because we're looking at a case that's as tragic as it is incredibly complex. We're unpacking the disappearance of 55-year-old Lynette Hooker. She literally vanished from her yacht in the Bahamas, and we're going to look strictly and impartially at the facts. What we'll do is place her husband's official account right side by side with the forensic data and the physical evidence. As we go through all of this, please keep in mind that Brian Hooker maintains his complete innocence and hasn't been charged with any crime. We are simply letting the source material guide us.
But before we even get into the forensics, we really need to ground ourselves in why this matters. There's this devastating question from Lynette's daughter, Carly, and it really serves as the emotional spine of this entire investigation. How do you just lose my mom? You know, it's a question that demands a logical answer. And actually, it's the exact question federal investigators are trying to piece together right now.
Part 1, The Night She Vanished, April 4th, 2026. To understand how this local missing persons case escalated to a massive federal manhunt, we have to look at the timeline for that evening. Brian and Lynette spent the day at Tahiti Beach and the Abaco Inn. Honestly, everything seemed like a standard Saturday for sailors. But after heading back to their yacht, which was anchored at Aunt Pat's Bay at around 7:30 p.m., this enormous gap in time begins. Sunset was at 7:40 p.m., and from that exact moment until 4 a.m. the next morning, the timeline becomes entirely dependent on one person's memory.
Part 2, Brian Hooker's account, the dinghy ride.
So this is the official account of what happened in their 8-foot dinghy during those missing hours. It's the story he gave consistently to friends and the media, maintaining that this was just a catastrophic accident. But what's really interesting here is Brian's exact phrasing. He claimed that the wind climbed to 20 knots, the seas got choppy, and in the total darkness, Lynette, and this is his quote, basically just bounced off the dinghy into the water. Hold on to that specific word, bounced, because boating experts certainly did. Which brings us to a staggering figure, 8. Brian says he spent 8 full hours drifting and paddling 4 miles to Marsh Harbor before making contact with authorities. Think about that for a second. During those 8 hours, from a former U.S. Marine trained for extreme physical hardship, there was absolutely no 911 call from the water. There was no emergency radio broadcast at all. He paddled to shore, made his way through the brush, and only then reported her missing.
Part 3, The Silent Witness, Inside the Yacht, Soulmate. While Brian's story is one piece of the puzzle, the source material points us to their 46-foot Morgan sailing sloop. It isn't just a boat, it's practically a floating hard drive. And we can verify the exact layout and capabilities of this vessel because, incredibly, a YouTube channel called Boat Snoop did a full professional walkthrough of it before the Hookers even bought it. We know for a fact it's the exact same boat through strict identifiers like the hull ID, the MSI registration, and even this highly unique twin dolphin sculpture welded right to the bow. The technology on board this vessel is absolutely crucial, and it completely explains why investigators immediately seized the boat's electronics. Soulmate is loaded with a FLIR camera that stands for forward-looking infrared. Basically, it sees body heat in the pitch black, and this directly contrasts Brian's claim that he couldn't look for Lynette because of zero visibility. The technology to see in the dark was sitting right there on their yacht the whole time.
So another crucial point here is the number 11. 11 is exactly how many hours Soulmate satellite tracking mysteriously went offline that fateful night. It just went dark, and then roughly 11 hours later, it popped right back online.
To really understand why that's a massive red flag, we have to look at the boat's power setup. Soulmate generates huge, continuous power through a 600-watt solar system. To put that in perspective, an accidental 11-hour outage is almost technically impossible. A system glitch would resolve itself in a matter of minutes. This leads investigators to a very specific, chilling question. Did someone manually disable the tracking systems that night?
Part 4, Cracks in the Narrative, the dinghy and the kill switch.
When we start analyzing the physical mechanics of the dinghy itself based on the source analysis, things don't quite seem to match up. Take the kill switch, for instance. Brian claimed the electric motor died the exact second Lynette fell in because she was wearing the kill switch lanyard. But in boating, the driver wears the kill switch, so a runaway boat stops. Having a passenger wear it? That means if they fall over, the engine cuts out immediately, completely stripping the driver of all power to perform a rescue or fight the current. It goes against every standard operating procedure out there.
Furthermore, remember that word, bounced? Well, this specific dinghy was a Boss hard hull.
It is made of rigid fiberglass. It doesn't flex, and it doesn't give. As multiple boating experts have pointed out, human beings do not simply bounce off rigid fiberglass. It's a mechanical description that has drawn intense scrutiny.
Part 5. Motive and behavioral red flags. The days after.
Investigations don't just look at timelines and boats, they look at context, right? Financially, the stakes between this couple were incredibly unbalanced. Lynette had built up a $650,000 retirement fund from decades working at AT&T. Brian, according to sources, had totally depleted his savings. The yacht sitting there in Marsh Harbor was practically his only remaining asset.
And then you add to this a string of behavioral red flags that investigators are heavily focused on. First up, there's a documented 2015 domestic incident. Next, Lynette were actually holding an unused flight ticket to leave him just weeks prior. On top of that, witnesses observed Brian tampering with the aft hatch of the boat before the police even got a chance to search it. And perhaps most jarringly of all, Brian boarded a flight to Michigan just hours after promising on national television that nothing would pull him away from the search.
Part 6. The Federal Hunt. Coast Guard Investigative Service, or CGIS. This is where things escalate significantly. Exactly 1 month after Lynette vanished, the United States Coast Guard Investigative Service, these are sworn federal agents tied to the Department of Justice, stepped in. They aren't just sitting at desks reviewing files, they're out there conducting active in-person interviews, they're wielding subpoena power, and they have issued a nationwide plea to locate a mystery sailboat that was anchored right next to Soulmate that fateful night. The core question federal agents are desperately trying to answer with their public plea is this: what exactly did the occupants of that mystery boat see before the dinghy ever left the anchorage? Did they hear something going on? Did they see the dinghy leave? Or maybe not leave at all?
Ultimately, authorities are comparing two completely different sets of data here. On one side, you have the Navionics GPS map that Brian proactively shared with the media, showing his drifting route. But on the other side, you have the time-stamped, heavily networked electronic data that was seized by federal agents directly from Soulmate.
As the source material points out, the yacht's data is the ultimate silent witness. It's a witness that cannot be coached, it can't be pressured, and it certainly cannot be intimidated into changing its story. It literally just records the truth. If the boat moved, the data knows. If the tracking was turned off manually, the data knows.
So I'll leave you with this to consider. If the electronic data from that boat contradicts the official story, what terrifying truth will finally rise to the surface about the night Lynette Hooker disappeared? The puzzle is still being assembled, but the data is keeping the record. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time as we continue.
Like this video, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to History Doc.